Something is happening inside your body right now that most doctors won't warn you about until it's too late. And the terrifying part? Millions of people are living with it, this very moment, convincing themselves it's nothing, convincing themselves it will pass, convincing themselves they just need to drink more water or eat a banana. But here's what most people never realize. When stool won't come out, and I mean truly won't come out, your body isn't just uncomfortable. Your body is sending you a distress signal, a quiet, desperate cry that something has gone deeply wrong. And the longer you ignore it, the more dangerous it becomes. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could genuinely save your life or the life of someone you love. Let me tell you about a man. We'll call him David. 54 years old, healthy-looking, active, the kind of guy who mowed his own lawn, coached his grandson's soccer team, and never missed a day of work in 20 years. For 3 days, David couldn't go to the bathroom. He felt bloated, uncomfortable, slightly nauseated. He told his wife it was probably something he ate. On day 4, the pain started, a dull, heavy pressure in his lower abdomen. Still, he brushed it off. He took some laxatives. He drank prune juice. He waited. On day 5, he collapsed in his kitchen. His wife called 911. The diagnosis? Fecal impaction that had progressed into a bowel obstruction. His colon, stretched, stressed, and overwhelmed, had become so blocked that toxic material had begun leaking into surrounding tissue. He survived. Barely. And the part that haunts me most? He had known something was wrong. He had felt it. But like so many of us, he waited. He minimized. He told himself it wasn't serious enough to make a fuss about. This is where things become dangerous. We live in a culture that is deeply embarrassed about bowel health. We joke about it. We whisper about it. We avoid the doctor's office because who wants to have that conversation? But here's the uncomfortable truth nobody talks about. Your digestive system is not a side character in your health story. It is the entire story. The gut is connected to your immune system, your brain chemistry, your hormonal balance, your energy levels, your mental health. When your gut stops functioning, when that movement stops, everything downstream begins to suffer. And yet, we treat constipation like it's a minor inconvenience, like it's something to be ashamed of, like it's beneath a real medical conversation. That silence, that embarrassment, it is killing people, quietly, slowly, and completely preventably. So let's talk about what's actually happening when stool won't come out, because there's a massive difference between I haven't gone in 2 days and feel a little off, and my body is in crisis and I don't realize it yet. Occasional constipation is normal. Life is stressful. Travel throws off our rhythm. We eat poorly sometimes. We get dehydrated. The gut slows down. That kind of constipation responds to hydration, fiber, movement, warmth. It resolves. It passes. You go on with your life. But there is another kind. The kind that doesn't respond to anything you try. The kind that comes with swelling, with pain that keeps growing, with nausea that won't quit, with a feeling so deep and wrong that some part of you, that quiet knowing part, is already afraid. That kind is different. And here's what most people never realize about that kind. The stool isn't just stuck. The entire mechanical process of elimination has failed. And when that process fails long enough, pressure builds, bacteria multiply, the colon walls stretch beyond what they were designed to handle, and the body begins to turn on itself. Have you ever experienced that feeling? That heavy, bloated pressure that no position makes better? Tell me in the comments, because I want you to know you are not alone in this, and you are not dramatic for being scared. Now I need to walk you through something important. Something your doctor might never sit down and explain clearly. There are specific warning signs, red flags, that separate uncomfortable constipation from a genuine medical emergency. And I want you to memorize these, not just for yourself, for your parents, for your partner, for anyone in your life whose gut health you quietly worry about. The first sign is time. If you have not had a bowel movement in more than 3 days and nothing you've tried has helped, that is not something to wait on. 3 days is the beginning of the danger window, not the middle. The second sign is pain that moves or grows. Constipation can cause discomfort. That's expected. But if you notice the pain shifting, if it moves from your abdomen to your lower back, if it begins radiating into your pelvis, if it starts to feel sharp instead of dull, that is your body screaming for attention. The third sign is nausea and vomiting. When the lower digestive system is completely blocked, the contents of the gut have nowhere to go but up. Vomiting alongside constipation, especially vomiting that smells or tastes abnormal, is one of the most serious warning signs in gastroenterology. It means the blockage is severe. Get to an emergency room, now. The fourth sign is a hard, distended abdomen. Press gently on your belly. If it feels rigid, like pressing on a drum, like the softness has been replaced with something solid and unyielding, that distension is not bloating. That is a sign of serious internal pressure. The fifth sign is fever. Your body raises its temperature when it's fighting infection. When stool is retained long enough, bacterial growth can lead to infection inside the colon, or worse, outside it. A fever alongside constipation is not a coincidence. It is a warning. The sixth sign is rectal bleeding or dark, tarry stool. Anytime there is blood involved in what comes out, or what tries to come out, take it seriously. Always. Here's what changes everything. These signs in combination represent a medical emergency, not a call the doctor on Monday morning situation, an emergency room situation, a right now situation, and yet people wait. They wait because they're embarrassed. They wait because they don't want to seem like they're overreacting. They wait because somewhere inside they're hoping they'll wake up tomorrow and it will all be fine. Most people won't admit this, but the thing that kills people isn't always the disease. Sometimes it's the delay. Let me tell you about fecal impaction specifically, because it's one of the most underdiagnosed conditions in adults over 50, and it is far more common than anyone wants to acknowledge. Fecal impaction is what happens when stool hardens inside the rectum to the point where the normal muscular contractions of the bowel cannot expel it. It becomes a physical mass, unmovable, and it creates a cascading problem. Softer stool above it has nowhere to go, so it backs up. Pressure builds on the colon walls. The blood supply to surrounding tissue can be compromised, and in severe cases, the colon can actually perforate, tear, release its contents into the abdominal cavity. That condition, peritonitis, has a mortality rate that should make every one of us pay attention. Here's the terrifying part. Fecal impaction often begins quietly, with what feels like ordinary constipation. And then something changes. The mild discomfort becomes real pain. The normal bloating becomes visible distension. And suddenly what felt manageable becomes a crisis. The real problem begins when people mistake the relief of liquid stool leaking around an impaction as a sign that things are improving. This is called overflow diarrhea. It is not improvement. It is one of the clearest signs that an impaction is severe. And it's deeply, dangerously misleading. Who is most at risk? This is the part nobody talks about enough. Elderly adults, particularly those over 70, face the highest risk. Why? Because the muscles of the colon weaken with age, because many elderly people take multiple medications that slow gut motility, because they often live alone, are less active, drink less fluid, and may not have someone checking on them every day. Think about the older people in your life right now. Think about your parents, your grandparents, an aunt or uncle who lives alone, a neighbor whose car you haven't seen in the driveway for a few days. When did you last ask them, genuinely, specifically, how their digestion has been? Because I promise you, they haven't brought it up themselves. Nobody does. The embarrassment runs too deep. Most people won't admit this, but the bowel health of our elderly loved ones is something we treat as invisible, until it becomes a crisis we can no longer ignore. I want to take a moment here. Just breathe. Because I know this is heavy. I know this might be touching something real in your life, maybe something you've been quietly worried about for yourself or for someone you love. That fear you're feeling right now, it's appropriate. But fear is only useful if it leads to action. And action in this case is simple. It is not complicated. It is not expensive. It is not embarrassing. It is just paying attention and speaking up. Now let me talk about what to actually do, because that matters just as much as knowing the warning signs. If you or someone you know is experiencing acute, severe constipation, especially with any of those red flag symptoms I mentioned, the first step is emergency care. Not tomorrow. Today. Go. Call. Get in the car and drive there if you have to. That is not overreacting. That is being your own advocate in a medical system that often won't pull that alarm for you unless you pull it yourself. For less acute situations, where you haven't gone in 2 to 3 days, you're uncomfortable, and there are no serious red flags. There are evidence-based approaches that actually work. Hydration is the foundation of everything. Not coffee, not tea, water. Your colon absorbs water from stool as it passes through, and when you're dehydrated, stool becomes harder, denser, and harder to move. 8 to 10 glasses of water daily isn't a suggestion. It is the non-negotiable baseline. Movement helps more than most people realize. Walking specifically, even 15 to 20 minutes, stimulates the muscular contractions of the colon through a mechanism called the gastrocolic reflex. Your gut responds to movement. It needs movement. Dietary fiber, from whole fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains, adds bulk to stool and draws water into the colon, keeping things moving. But here's what most people never realize about fiber. It only works with adequate water. Without hydration, added fiber can actually make constipation worse. Position matters more than most Western medicine acknowledges. The squatting position, which you can approximate using a footstool or a specialized toilet platform, aligns the rectum in a way that makes elimination significantly easier. It's not alternative medicine, it's basic anatomy. And osmotic laxatives, specifically polyethylene glycol, sold under several brand names, are generally considered safe for short-term use and work by drawing water into the stool rather than stimulating the bowel wall. Unlike stimulant laxatives, they don't create dependency or damage the colon over time. But, and this is critical, if you've tried these approaches for more than 2 to 3 days without any movement at all, you need a doctor. You need imaging. You need a professional assessment, because sometimes the blockage isn't functional, sometimes it's structural, sometimes it's something the body cannot fix on its own. Here's what I want you to sit with for a moment. There is a generation of people, our parents, our grandparents, maybe even ourselves, who were raised to endure, to push through, to not make a fuss, to handle things quietly and not burden anyone. And that strength, that endurance, has an enormous cost. Because endurance has no place in a medical emergency. Because silence in a doctor's office has cost lives. Because the most stoic, independent, tough-it-out person you know is exactly the person who is most likely to wait too long when their body is in crisis. Have you ever experienced this? That feeling of knowing something is wrong but talking yourself out of going to get help? Tell me in the comments. Because I think more people have been there than we ever acknowledge. I want to tell you one more story before we reach the end. A woman, 67 years old, a retired school teacher. She had been mildly constipated for years, what she called her usual trouble, and had long since accepted it as part of getting older. Then one week it was different, heavier, more painful. She felt nauseated in the mornings. She couldn't eat. She kept telling herself it would resolve. Her daughter called on day 4 and noticed something in her voice. Just a slight flatness, a tiredness that wasn't quite right. She pressed her mother, and her mother, because her daughter asked gently and specifically and refused to accept "I'm fine," admitted what had been happening. Her daughter drove her to urgent care that afternoon. The imaging showed a significant fecal impaction with early signs of bowel distension. She was admitted, treated, monitored for 2 days, and she went home healthy. Her daughter later said, "I almost didn't ask. I almost just told myself she was tired. I almost let it go. Almost." That word. It's such a terrifying word when you look back on a moment that could have ended differently. The gut is not a minor system. It is not a side issue. It is not something to be embarrassed about or minimized or joked away. Your digestive health is the foundation of your physical health, of your energy, your immunity, your clarity, your mood. And when it breaks down, when the system that is supposed to move things through, expel what doesn't belong, and protect you from internal toxicity begins to fail, your entire body is at risk. You deserve to take that seriously. You deserve to speak about it without shame. You deserve to walk into a doctor's office or an emergency room and say, "Something is wrong. I need help. I am not okay." And know that that is not weakness. That is wisdom. That is self-respect in its most powerful form. And this is what changes everything. The moment we stop being ashamed of our bodies, all of our bodies, even the parts that embarrass us, even the functions that feel unglamorous, is the moment we start actually protecting them. Your gut is trying to communicate with you constantly, through discomfort, through rhythm, through the quiet language of how you feel each morning. And every time you dismiss it, every time you wait, every time you choose silence over action, you are choosing to trust embarrassment over your own survival. Don't do that. Please. Not for something this preventable. Not for something this treatable, when caught early enough. If you watch this video because something didn't feel right, trust that feeling. Go get checked. Call your doctor. Go to urgent care. Go to the emergency room if the warning signs I described are present. You are not being dramatic. You are not overreacting. You are listening to your body, and your body, that extraordinary, resilient, complicated, brave body, is worth listening to. Leave a comment below if this video helped you understand something you didn't before. If it made you think of someone in your life you need to check in on, tell me. If you've been through something like this yourself and come out the other side, share it. Because your story might be the thing that convinces someone else to make the call they've been putting off. We talk about the things that matter here. All of them. Even the ones nobody else wants to talk about. Because that's exactly when talking matters most.